Nothing has such power to broaden the mind as the ability to investigate systematically and truly all that comes under thy observation in life. Marcus Aurelius. To our dear panelists, advisors, fellow presenter, and to everyone present to this event, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Laline Grace Cernicola, a presenter from Science Division. For us students, research is one of the highlight of academic journey. And today, I will present to you our product of hard work and perseverance. Before I will start my presentation, I would like to acknowledge my co-author of this study. Ladies and gentlemen, our research study entitled Learning by Doing with Visual Methods, Utilizing Photovoice as a Pedagogical Tool in Learning Science. For the rationale of our study, we have Photovoice is widely employed as a method of community action research, and there is well-documented evidence supporting its effectiveness in boosting student involvement and improving learning outcomes when implemented successfully in educational contexts. In previous work, the methodology was called photonovela, the process of using photographs to tell a story. Caroline Wang was the first to use narrative photography as a photo voice, where participants captured the images of the community in the study. In science education, the use of photo voice is a groundbreaking achievement, signifying a locally driven research initiative for the first time. Researchers have embraced visual methods in using photography as a lesson intervention in science to create knowledge and enhance the learning experiences of the grade 9 special science class students of Miagao National High School. It has been said that visual methods, images and words would effectively communicate the challenges, the needs, and the hopes of the communities and individuals. So, in the recent era or in our 21st century, students are visual learners, meaning they can learn the best when they have seen the images, the videos, or the photos integrated in the uh, learning environment. And photo voice is a kind of methodology used by the researchers in this study in order to have the knowledge about what we call climate. Specifically, the researcher integrate the study of photo voice to know the knowledge of students in terms of climate. As for the statement of the problem of this study, the researcher sought to answer the following questions. What is the pretest score of the controlled and experimental group before using photo voice? What is the post-test score of the controlled and experimental group after using photo voice? Is there a significant difference in the post-test score after using photo voice? And what are the students' learning experiences using the photo voice method in the lesson climate? The statement of the problem 1, 2, and 3 are both of the quantitative research method, while the fourth question of our statement problem is for our qualitative method. For the hypothesis, there is no significant difference in the post-test scores of the controlled and experimental groups after using photo voice. As for the conceptual framework, so we have two different variables, the independent variable and the dependent variable. For our independent variable, we have the approach with photo voice, the experimental group, and approach without photo voice, the control group. In the approach with photo voice, this group, we call this group as group A also, and we integrate the photo voice in this kind of group. Wherein approach without photo voice, we do not integrate photo voice in this kind of group. As for our dependent variable is our learning outcomes, the experiences of the students, their knowledge about the subject matter. For the methodology, the researcher used the explanatory sequential mixed method, meaning the researcher first used the quantitative phase, next is the qualitative phase of the study, and the interpretation. In the quantitative phase of the study, the researcher used or get the data quantitatively, use the pre-test and post-test scores of the students, while in the qualitative phase, the researcher used the in-depth interview. And for the interpretation, the researcher interprets the data whether it is um, it is useful or if photo voice is can be integrated in the classroom or if it is effective or not. We also use the quasi-experimental research design under our quantitative phase. We have the pre-test and post-test. In the pre-test, the researcher gathered or undergo the pre-test in the Don Felix Serra National High School, the STE 9 class of the Don Felix students of the Don Felix Serra National High School. But before before getting the pre-test, the researcher ensured that the instruments used during the pretest were being validated by the teachers of the Miagao National High School. As for the photo voice as an intervention, the researcher participants in this study is the grade 9 students or the SSC students of the Miagao National High School. As for the intervention, the researcher integrate the photo voice in the elaborate part of the lesson plan, and the students undergo the who belong to the experimental group rather undergo the post test, and the students who belong to the control group also undergo the post test and the pre-test as well. As for the quasi-experimental research design, we have the pre-test and the post-test. We have group A, those groups with photo voice, with the treatment of photo voice, with the intervention. And the group B without photo voice are our controlled group. The two of these group undergo the pre-test and post-test. The same thing with the group A and the group B, but in the group A, the researcher integrated the photo voice in the lesson plan at the elaborate part of the lesson. For the qualitative phase of the study, the researcher used the in-depth interview. So the researcher get the 5 participants out from the post-test results of the students. So they created they gathered picture or image or the photography of different effects or their knowledge about the climate change, and they were able to come up with some of the images, and with that images the researcher create a questions, specifically 9 questions, and interviewed these 5 students. 2 students um, garnered the highest number of points in their post-test scores, and 2 of the students garnered the lowest points or lowest scores in their post-test, and 1 student is at the average scores. So this in-depth interview happened, and the researcher recorded the in-depth interview for the thematic analysis. The participants of the study, a group of 48 SSC learners of Miagao National High School, were the study's respondents, where 50% of this belong to the experimental group and other 50% belong to the control group. They were selected purposively based on the match pairing test using their first quarter grades in science. For the qualitative data participants, purposeful sampling was used to identify the 5 students of the experimental group in the quantitative data. They were identified based on the post-test ranking, the first, the middle, and last. As what I have said, on the first ranking, we have 2 students. On the last ranking, we have 2 students, but in the middle, we only choose 1 of the students who will participate in our qualitative data gathering. As for the instruments of our study, we have quantitative data sources and instruments. A 30-item researcher-made validated exam was used in the study. The exam was based on the provided TOS and composed of grade 9 third quarter topic on climate. It was pilot tested to 40 STE students of Don Felix Sarah National High School. The initial 50-item test was deduced to a final 30-question examination through item analysis. This was given to the participants in both groups through a pre-test. And for our qualitative data sources and instruments, the researcher used a semi-structured, in-depth interview to elicit spontaneous and genuine responses. The instrument used is the 9-item researchers made question. And as for our data gathering procedure, we have provided a video, or we made a video out of this gathering procedure. So here is our video.
Learning by doing with visual methods, utilizing Photovoice as a pedagogical tool in learning science. Ladies and gentlemen, dear panel of experts, to our advisor and chairman, good morning. Today, we invite you to embark on a captivating journey into the realm of experiential learning where visual methods intertwine with scientific inquiry.
National High School. Item analysis.
Number 10, letter A.
Wala ko A.
Wala lang ko A.
Permission to conduct study MNHS. Pre-test. Lesson proper. Post-test.
Is that the picture you do? First picture is ang is the fall down like this. Tapos ang second picture is sa tanan
Documentation.
For our data processing technique, so we have the quantitative data processing technique and the qualitative data processing technique. In our quantitative data, so we use the descriptive statistics and the inferential statistics. We also, in a qualitative, on the other hand, we use thematic analysis. So we thematize the recording. So we create different themes out of that recording and create conclusion from those analysis. We have the quantitative and the qualitative results, but then here are our quantitative results. The pretest scores of the experimental group were considered high with a mean of 21.93 and standard deviation of 2.85. So the same result was noted with the control group as shown by the mean of 21.83 and standard deviation of 4.28. The post-test result of the experimental group had a very high score with the mean of 26.04 and standard deviation of 2.56, whereas the post-test scores of the control group is considered to have high results, with the mean of 24.17 and standard deviation of 2.56. The data showed a significant difference in the post-test scores of the control and experimental groups after the photo voice intervention. So we have here a sample output of the photo voice project or photo voice assignment. You can see that it says save the river to save millions of lives. So in this example or in the sample output, we can therefore conclude that students could be able to determine the effects of climate change by simply taking a picture of what is happening in the environment. And by taking this picture, they were able to relate these pictures in life. And therefore, they could conclude that we need to save a river in order to save millions of lives. We also have the qualitative results. We have created or we have come up with four things out from the recordings or the out from the thematic analysis that we have. So we have the first theme, capturing students' emotional responses while taking photographs, exploring student challenges when taking photographs, students' understanding on the effect of climate change, and student advocacy in combating climate change. So here's an example we have right here. For the conclusion, we therefore conclude in our study that the photo voice method can improve students' learning outcomes. It entails collaborative learning with the teacher and learners in the actual classroom setting. Photo voice can enhance students' learning outcomes by providing experiential and practical learning opportunities. The approach recognizes that students are more likely to grasp and retain knowledge when actively engaged in hands-on activities instead of possibly listening to instructional content delivered by teachers. For the conclusion number three, the improvement of the post-test scores of the learners exposed to a photo voice method and who were not exposed to the photo voice method displayed that the learners learned differently when exposed to hands-on learning such as the photo voice method, where they were given a chance to capture creative images with regards to the topic timing. Using the photo voice method in teaching science, learners can enhance student participation and engagement in the teaching learning process through an in-depth interviews. Through the photo voice method in teaching science, the learners develop their critical thinking skills and creativity to analyze, expound their knowledge beyond their limits, and develop a sense of care towards the environment. The students were exposed to the photo voice method improved their learning outcomes after their treatment period. Utilization of photo voice can enhance students' learning outcomes through teachers' guidance, motivations, and strengthening the use of the said method. So as for our recommendation, so we have here, we therefore recommend that students should participate in class discussions and capture creative images that align with their subject matter through photo voice. Students must engage in dialogue to best describe the images they have taken through photo voice. And teachers should utilize a photo voice in the actual classroom setting in subject science and any other subjects as an alternative approach. Teachers should learn how to adopt the recent technological advances in the field of education that could improve students' learning outcomes. School administrators should support and provide teacher learning development programs such as photo voice and instructional materials. Parents and stakeholders should be supportive and cooperative with the educators who spearhead such studies to improve students' learning outcomes. The researchers highly recommends further studies on the remaining effective use of photo voice in improving students' learning outcomes in different fields of study. Findings of the study need further investigation and consideration of study limitations, which is a time element. So here is our um, so this will be the end of our presentation of our research. So we have here the references and would like to thank I would like to give credit to my co-authors for this study. Irene Carenia, Julie Lala, Ronald Ramos, and Benjamin. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation. And God bless us. Good afternoon and thank you.